May 1995. A woman disappears in Northern California. No one can find her. Then a psychic has a terrible vision.
I could feel her energy, absolutely frantic with fear. She knew she was going to be murdered.
For weeks, they search, but they can't find her.
She's in a ditch, water not far away.
Can the psychic lead police to her body so they can convict her cold-blooded killer? May 24th, 1995. The rural town of Dixon, Northern California. Martin Reese, a police officer from the nearby town of Davis, searches the streets for his ex-sister-in-law, Rosa Talamantes. A single mother of 7, Rosa went out for a beer the night before and didn't return home. With children to feed and get ready for school, this is not like her. She's a responsible mother. Her family are anxious.
My thought at that point was that she may have taken off, who knows, to spend the night somewhere and just didn't bother to tell the children, but somehow in the back of my mind it didn't seem right.
To make matters worse, the night before, Rosa's eldest daughter, Elisa, had a terrifying premonition.
Around midnight, something in my stomach just pulled really hard, and I had a bad pain in my stomach, so the next morning, when I got to the house and found the kids alone, I asked them where my mother had went, and they said she had went to the store with Jose and never came back.
Jose Aniquez, Rosa's boyfriend, is an immigrant farm laborer. Their relationship is volatile. He helps feed her children, but he's also jealously possessive, and their arguments often flare into violence. Elisa goes straight out to the work camp where Jose lives. Maybe her mother had stayed the night with him, but neither of them are there. Frantic, Elisa goes to the police to report her mother missing.
When I got that pain in my stomach, I knew that she was dead. She wouldn't have stayed out that long with her kids at home. She'd never left them alone. Deep down inside, I knew she was really dead.
But without proof that her mother is dead, the police tell Elisa they must wait 24 hours before they can file a missing persons report. Detective Sergeant Elaine Perry was friendly with Rosa.
She and we developed a rapport and a good just communication between us. One day in passing, she had indicated to me that she was in a relationship, but the individual had a bad temper. And she had told him she didn't want to see him any longer. And she had been seeing another gentleman that had also lived here in town.
Rosa had already told Jose that she was going to leave him. And he had threatened her that if she left him, he would kill her. My fear was that he may have beat her up and just left her abandoned somewhere.
After combing the streets without finding her, Martin offers his services to the Dixon police. As a relative of Rosa's and a fellow police officer, he wants to do all he can to help. Feeling increasingly desperate, Elisa goes back out to look for her mother's boyfriend, Jose. And this time, she finds him, though she soon wishes she hadn't.
I asked him, where was my mother? And he said he had no idea where she was. That's when I told him that I had spoke with the police in town, if he could please follow me into town because they wanted to speak with him. So he followed me, and halfway down the road, he flashed the lights at me and told me to pull over. So I pulled over, and I could tell he was walking up to my vehicle, very antsy, like he wanted to strangle me or do something to me. But he noticed I had my little brother with me, so he just told me, just be a minute, I'm gonna have to return back to the camp, I forgot something. And I said, okay, because I didn't want to frustrate him more, so he went back and I drove into town.
Elisa rushes to the police station to tell them she's found Jose. They must catch him quick before he escapes. Jose had left the camp the night before, but he came back at dawn drunk.
It appears that he did return to the field because he wanted to get a paycheck. He made a statement to the coworker about sending a person to heaven.
Police arrest Jose as he's about to leave the camp. Being the last person to see Rosa, he's a prime suspect. They hold him on an outstanding drunk driving offense, which gives them time to find out what happened to Rosa. Martin helps Elaine interview Jose. He's cold and indifferent and claims he knows nothing of Rosa's disappearance.
His events were that they had bought some alcohol and they had been drinking, and that they had taken a drive, and after that he brought her back, and he has no idea where she went after that.
But Rosa's children have already told police that he didn't bring her back that evening. In Jose's car, police find a pair of Rosa's earrings, which apparently she never removed. They also find a shirt stained with blood, which Jose claims came from a nosebleed. Meanwhile, Martin begins searching the fields around Jose's work camp. But with such a vast area to cover, it's a fruitless exercise. Days go by. Rosa's family are desperate. Then a colleague of Martin's suggests he make a phone call, which gives the investigation a whole new focus. Psychic Sally Heading is a doctor of psychology and parapsychology. She's also done a lot of crime work with the police.
I'm good at finding bodies. I don't have to be there. In fact, I prefer not being there. It's easier for me to just do it with remote viewing. When someone dies, they're still there. They're just no longer in body. If energy is continuous, then there's no reason for me to go someplace to see something. I can do it just right where I am.
The normally skeptical Sergeant Martin Reese is willing to give it a try.
Hello, Sally. This is Martin. A lot of times, we may hamper ourselves by not considering every option available out there. And I have to remind myself, what is the focus here? Why am I going through this? Because I want to get resolution for the family, for the kids. So why not?
She had a very strong feeling that this man was capable of taking her life. When Martin gave me the first phone call, I started getting a very strong sense of what had happened to this woman. In fact, as I talked with Martin, I knew that she was dead.
Martin is shocked. The psychic has confirmed the family's worst fears. But how will he prove who killed Rosa? Rosa Talamantes has disappeared. Her boyfriend, Jose, is the last person to have seen her, but he insists he doesn't know where she is. The police lock him up on a drunk driving charge while they investigate. But after a week of searching for her, they find nothing. Her family fear the worst. Martin Reese, an out-of-town police officer and relative of Rosa's, is helping the police to try to find her. He contacts psychic Dr. Sally Heading, who confirms their worst fears.
She'd been murdered by her boyfriend.
Rosa's children tell police that the fateful evening began when Jose took Rosa out to buy some beer. But this trip to the store wasn't like others.
What was unusual about this particular time was that she went without the kids, because she always had one of the kids tied to her hand and the smallest one stuck on her hip. When one of the kids offered to go with them, apparently he said he didn't want anybody to go with them, just the two of them to go to the store. And that's what was unusual.
Sally believes it was Rosa who made the children stay behind.
She knew she was going to be murdered. If she brought her children along, they would be too. If she didn't go with him, he would murder her there and take her children too. They'd all be gone.
Under repeated questioning, Jose starts to change his story.
Jose stated that they had gone out to the camp and that there was a verbal argument, and she got angry at him and had jumped out of his car. and that he turned his car around and went looking for her but was unable to locate her. So he at that point went back to the camp and went to sleep for the evening.
But Sally's vision shows a frighteningly different sequence of events.
He wanted power and control over this woman. He sensed he was losing her. She was a piece of property to him, and he wasn't ready to let go of her. And if he wasn't going to have her, then no one else would. He took her to where he works the land, because that's where he's comfortable. It's a place where he feels in control.
And once out in the fields, Jose gives vent to his violent jealousy. Sally experiences the harrowing last moments of Rosa's life.
I had the sense of pain around my neck, of not being able to breathe. I had the sense of something burning me on my neck. The killing blow was at the neck and the chest that she bled out. That she was in a ditch on the side of the road, curled up in the fetal position.
During the initial conversation, Sally told me that we needed to go back and search at the place where Jose lived.
I knew she wasn't terribly far away from the ranch. I believe I said she was within 2 to 5 miles, something like that. There was a great sense of urgency on this case because of the concern about him taking off, concern about flight down to Mexico, not being able to apprehend him.
Just over 2 weeks after Rosa's disappearance, a massive search is made of the area surrounding Jose's work camp.
They brought out the mounted police, the canine. They had dogs that specialize in searching for bodies. They had people up in the sky. Just all the volunteers came together and searched the area.
When you're getting into our rural areas, there's miles and miles of roadways and acreage and ditches, drain ditches and ditches in fields, and the ground being constantly worked up, and that somewhat makes a search more difficult.
But even after such a huge effort, there is no sign of Rosa.
We were disheartened by it because, of course, being small agencies in this county, it is difficult to get everyone together like that. And our hope, again, was to find Rosa. We needed to give that family some closure, be it a positive closure or a negative closure. But those children needed to know where their mother was.
My brothers and sisters were scared, and they didn't really know what was going on. They weren't sure. They were also like in shock. They were in disbelief. They didn't want to believe that my mother was gone. The hardest part was waking up in the middle of the night with my little sister screaming and crying and trying to run around the house looking for my mother.
Unmoved, Jose offers the children no hope. He insists he's innocent. And without a body, there's no proof she's dead. He could be telling the truth.
There is always the possibility that what Jose was saying truly happened.
But the evidence is stacking up against him. Tests now show that Jose's blood is type B, and the blood on the shirt found in his car is type A, like Rosa's.
I would say that with the information that I had and the evidence, the shirt, the earrings, my thought was at that point that she was not alive.
Now, certain that Sally is right about Rosa's death, Martin calls her again. The psychic has had another revelation.
This guy.
She asked me if Jose was likely to use abusive language with her in Spanish, and I told her yes, he was a Spanish speaker, because she kept hearing the word puta, something like that coming up.
He said, "You think he called her that? That means whore in Spanish." And I said, "No, I see it being written out. I'm being shown the letters. I'm convinced it's on a sign not far from where her body is." He said, "Well, there's the Puta Creek. That's it."
The Puta Creek happens to flow near Jose's labor camp. It covers a large area. Spurred on by Sally's vision, Martin spends days searching the surrounding fields and ditches.
You can see that it's just acres upon acres of different crops. And a lot of the grass that is left from the previous crops grows over the canals, over the drainage ditch, making it nearly impossible to look into them. It's like looking for a needle in a haystack. My mindset was now that if he buried her in a ditch or in a canal somewhere where he only knows, there's a possibility that the body may never be found. And so I was already starting to toy with that idea that perhaps the kids would never have resolution or find the peace and at least being able to give her a proper burial.
For the next 10 days, the searches continue throughout the locality, but there is still no sign of Rosa. Could the psychic be wrong?
I wasn't worried about being wrong. I was frustrated. I was frustrated that I wasn't being shown more as to where she was. For some reason, all I was able to be shown was that sign, a ditch, and water not far away, and I knew she wasn't far away from the ranch.
I really didn't stop to analyze, well, is she really telling me, good information? Should I believe her anymore? Not really. I don't think that really came to play. I think Sally at that point was one more resource that I needed to use.
As the search for Rosa's body enters its 4th week, her family do everything they can to keep up public interest in the case.
I was feeling confused and maybe not really believing that she was really gone. This really dear friend of mine started helping me. She put it in the paper, I think, on the news, that we needed volunteers for a search. And we had a lot of people help. And we went out and searched for her and see if we could find her somewhere out there in the fields. We looked everywhere, ditches and canals and everywhere, and we just could not find her.
Meanwhile, Jose bides his time in silence. If they don't find Rosa's body, once he's served his drunk driving conviction, he'll be free.
If you don't have the body, if you will, you're not going to be able to convince a jury that he killed her. He's going to have to be released. He'll flee the area. And as the focus and the interest in the case dissipates, that's it. And the children would be left with this unresolved loss of their mother.
But psychic Sally Heading is still working the case. And a new vision could easily destroy any hopes Jose has of getting away with murder. Rosa Talamantes has vanished. She's presumed dead. The scant evidence points to her boyfriend, Jose, who insists he's innocent. He's jailed on a drunk driving charge while the police search for her. But after nearly a month, even with clues provided by psychic Sally Heading, Rosa's body can't be found. Martin Reese, a police officer and relative of Rosa's, knows that without a body, the killer will go unpunished, and Rosa's children will be left with the unexplained disappearance of their mother.
I thought that, yeah, he would probably get away with it because where we weren't finding her body, nobody had found her yet, and time was just going by.
Then Sally gives Martin some alarming news.
Sally mentioned that this was not something that Jose had done alone. I also knew Rosa was a fighter, strong. You couldn't just walk up and overpower her. So either Jose got her very, very drunk to be able to overpower her, or had help.
Following this new lead, Martin goes out to interview Jose's co-workers. Sally warns him it could be a mistake.
Well, I felt very strongly that it would be a wild goose chase. They wouldn't talk to him, that this man was someone they were afraid of, someone they were intimidated by.
But when I spoke with Sally on the phone, she told me that they would literally stonewall me, that they would not be cooperative. She said one of them would be dark-complected, and with tattoos on his arms.
I had the sense that he had a tattoo on his left forearm of Jesus, and that this man was going to be very disappointing to Martin. Like, how dare you come out here and ask us questions like this?
As Sally predicted, Jose's co-workers give nothing away. Soon afterwards, they disappear, leaving more questions unanswered. The search is losing momentum.
We began searching immediately after she went missing. And within days, of course, there was high publicity, a lot of interest, a lot of relatives and volunteers, friends of the family came together. But at some point, it was noticeable that the volunteers were not as many. Numbers were dwindling down.
The case was going cold. It can be somewhat depressing. We had these children who were grieving, and that to me was tugging at my heartstrings.
But Sally doesn't give up. She continues to focus on Rosa, hoping she might finally see a clue that will lead them to her body. Finally, Sally does see something new. It's an unexpected twist.
Sally told me that the body will not be found by the police, that somebody not official will find the body or passerby.
This is good news. If Rosa's body is found soon, her children will be able to bury their mother and see her killer behind bars. And if Jose did kill her, alone or with help, they must find Rosa's body within the year, or he will have served his drunk driving conviction and, like his friends, vanish. It's a race against time. Then, exactly a month from the day Rosa disappeared, a farm worker discovers her badly decomposed body in a drainage ditch near Putta Creek. Her throat has been cut, and she is lying in a fetal position, exactly as Sally described it. Can Rosa's body now provide the evidence needed to convict her killer? Police piece together the events of that tragic night. Rosa had been dating Jose for several months, but his violent jealousy made her want to end the relationship. She began seeing another man. Elisa believes he was the father of Rosa's youngest child. They had been together before Jose appeared.
He was jealous of my mother leaving him to go and be with my sister's father. And I think he wanted to get rid of either him, the baby's father, or do something to my mother.
When he pulled up, she knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was going to murder her. She began to beg for her life. Please, the children, please don't. And it just continued to escalate and continued to escalate. And his language became more violent and foul. And when she saw the knife, she began to pray, because she knew she was dead. And I could feel her energy, absolutely frantic with fear. My children. Who is going to be there for my children?
When I found more information about the position and the location of the body, the fact that she was face down in a fetal position in a ditch, that the ditch had, at some point, had water in it, and that there was indication that her throat had been the point of injury, that matched up with the information that Sally had provided.
When they found her, I cried. I cried my eyes out. Because there's still a part of me that wanted to be wrong so she could still be alive. That would have been joyous to have been wrong about. Just joyous.
Rosa's body seals Jose's fate. Whether he acted alone or had help, no one will ever know. But forensic analysis puts him at the crime scene and proves it's Rosa's blood on his shirt. Jose is convicted of second-degree murder. His defense claims he'd been motivated by jealousy causing emotional distress. He was jailed for life and must serve 16 years before he can be considered for parole.